The following is a Mission Studios podcast.
Please remember, my little Podverse family, like, subscribe, and leave a comment on your podcast platform of choice. It helps me out and works the algorithm to get better rankings and bring our little podcast family to more listeners. Thank you, and on with the show. Welcome to the Podverse Podcast. We like to stir up minds, emotions, and thoughts. Episodes will be emotional, some will be a bit comical, and everything else in between. But all will have a message and be given from the heart. So sit back, get comfy, and enjoy the journey. Does free will exist? By what standard do you, the listener, use to verify that personal free will exists? Because you wake up and have coffee or a glass of milk instead of tea? Maybe because you choose not to get up and sleep in until 10 o'clock a.m. instead of waking up at 7:30 a.m. Or are these too simple? Is it because you choose where you work and what town you decide to live in? Those are all great reasons to think total free will exists, because we make thousands, if not 100,000 decisions every day. But what if I told you I believe we have what I call experiential will? You see, I do not believe total free will exists. Our will is limited by our personal experience, which in turn limits our decision, which in turn limits the options we have to make those decisions, and on and on. I look at will this way. You are free to think whatever you want, but you have to realize your freedom is limited by the knowledge and experiences you have had up to this point. What I see as experiential will, rather than free, was starting to be shaped by the earliest experiences. Where we grow up, who we are influenced by, directly correlates to us creating a rationale for ourselves. From those experiences, as we grow up, we learn to form our opinions and our outlook. Our favorite teacher, let's say from grade 3, will imprint on our memories forever. And from that time on, for most of our personal interactions, we judge by what a person looks like or because of a familiar way of speaking, which directly correlates back to the interaction we had with that teacher from grade 3. Right there is a differentiation that a decision we thought we had free will over was imprinted sometimes 30 years back and we didn't even know. Also, because there are things that you do not have knowledge of, our ability to have total free will is a fallacy. In my opinion, the sooner we accept our experiential will, the sooner we can focus on expanding our minds and get the old gray matter between our ears churning. When we can choose what we learn because we know what we don't know, we can take our lives where we want. Understanding our true limitations allows us to complement the experiences we have had with educated decisions. You see, in order to have total free will, one would need to know everything in existence. Can any of you out there listening tell me with 100% certainty you know every minute, the smallest detail of every consequence from an action, or every quark, which is one of the smallest particles known to exist in the universe? With that, even if you did know every decision of every outcome and every quark, you are now dealing with determinism rather than a choice of free will. I do not believe anyone can know everything. So we need to understand our limitations so we can concentrate on learning what we do not know. Understanding our limitations around our will means we can create more order and direction, in turn guiding us to better and more fulfilling experiences. Then, the more we understand about the experiential will, the more we can expand our minds and break out of our limitations. Now that we understand where we're starting from. Just to be clear, even though I have explained most of my beliefs pertaining to free will or experiential will, I am not here to convince you either way. I am just giving you my perspective and maybe a different way to think, possibly helping you rectify your truth. Exploring your inner self and knowing your personal shortcomings allows you as an individual the ability to examine and stretch your own experiences, broadening your mind and your experiential will. Now you are truly in control of what decisions you make, so you can learn what you need to take you on the path you wish to follow. Knowing and understanding what you do not know gives you the amazing power to control your personal narrative, taking your life into directions you may never have considered because you thought you had free will. That, in my opinion, is what has been limiting our ability to change as a civilization. The false belief of free will does not force us to change ourselves as strongly as we can. Now, having your personal power securely in your own hands because you know you need to grow, because our limited perspective is allowing us to open our eyes and minds and grow to exponentially expand our learned experiences. Here's your quiet in your head contemplation time. Now that you have an opportunity to change your reality, what are you going to do? Will you stretch yourself to think outside your box about new opportunities? Will you change the way you view your world, knowing your limitations have been lifted? Examine who and what influences you have brought up through the years from positive and negative impressions left upon you. There are tons of amazing thinkers like Sam Harris that believe free will does not exist at all. His philosophy of free will is another great perspective to check out. Things like who we are born to is out of our control. Where we grow up, for the most part, is out of our control. So everything consequentially happens, but not because of free will. Check out his amazing channel, Sam Harris, on YouTube. His Making Sense series is amazing and filled with great knowledge that we can all grow from. This week, my beautiful little Podverse family, let's do something to expand our experience on this big blue ball we call Earth. Let us reflect back and change what allows us to form opinions now that we can think back and recognize our influences. Most of all, please stay awesome and know you are the most important person in the world, and there is no one like you. Your mind, your heart, and your smile change the world for the better every day. So share them. Be safe, be informed, and be well, my little Podverse family. I love you all. See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Podverse Podcast. Whatever you take from this message, it is given freely and with the utmost respect. Any support for the Podverse Podcast is always welcome and can be left at our website, www.pod-verse.com. Whether support is by way of suggestion, story, constructive criticism, or maybe you wish to sponsor an episode, there is never any obligation. We just hope to create a wonderful experience for you in this Podverse community. Also, be sure to check us out on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Podverse Podcast Group or on Twitter at pod_verse. Chat with you in the next episode.